Bryan Kohberger. Guys, remember Bryan Kohberger murdered all those co-eds in Idaho, at the house in Idaho, admitted to all of it. But since then, he has been put in the Idaho Maximum Security Institution, the IMSI. And apparently some of his kites and complaints have been leaked to the press. And, all I could do is say, oh my God, this is some of the worst handwriting ever. Just look at him writing this all out. Even if he's using the Flexi pen, imagine if he wrote a ransom and had slapped it to your door. I love this where he's just going on and on and on here. This is very much a Office Space moment. I have on several occasions not received all items of food on my tray. Probably not getting his cookie or treat. He says, I addressed this during service and have yet to receive any replacements. And in fact, the kitchen is not even called. He's like, they're supposed to do some things, and he's just, taking advantage of it. And he says the policy book, and every inmate gets a big policy book of the, of what's expected of them, and if there's ever any changes, they can always look at the book and give them a basic idea of what they're expected to do, what they're supposed to know to comply with things. Now, what is he saying here? Well, he says the items are missing which are pointed out at the time of service will be replaced. He says, I wish to, without exception, receive these replacements. And they said, well, how do we try to address this? And he says addressing the issue with staff at the time of the meal service is correct. He says, I wish for the items to be called for and items replaced when there's access to it. And he says, the nutritional standard is not being upheld unless I receive my full tray. I'm like, what is your full tray? Because I don't know. But yes, he's likely getting withheld as part of his tray. He's going full Sarah Boone. I mean, he's starting to. Now, there are other things he sent, and this one is very, I guess we'll say it's grim. But it can be funny at the same time. Wait, why did he circle the checkbox for agreements? He didn't, someone else did. So this is from Bryan Kohberger. This is him once again whining and crying about something. This one here is actually all the information goes out, so that's on there. So what happens next for Bryan? Well, this is the next one he does. And he says, as I continue the SPI phase, I wish to discuss if I may be transferred to another ag-seg setting, such as B blocks. He says, not engaging any of the recent striking as well as the beating subject as being subject to minute-by-minute verbal threats and harassment. I think it's other bases of 2 to 3 blocks is an environment that I wish to transfer from. He says, if possible, I request transfer to B block immediately. He says, I wish my sperm to go with me. So, and he's not saying sperm. He's like, I wish to speak with you soon. So there was another thing here, and I do like this. And there's a response, and this is actually what happens with kites. You put out something, there's a kite or a concern form. And notice it's called the concern form, and you could see there's concern here, and their captain is, yes, much concern. He says, Mr. Kohberger, on any tier at IMSI, there are sometimes disruptions to operations, such as residents flooding. And yes, on J2, it is a relatively rare occurrence. And J2 is generally a fairly calm and quieter tier. I do not think that B block would be any better for you. Give it some time. And that's what they're going to tell you. You're going to have to tough it out. You're going to have to suffer a little bit. Now, there was another addition to this, or there was another part to this. And guys, this is actually getting kind of serious when you start seeing it. This involves PREA, and that's federal law. That is the Prison Rape Elimination Act. And we've watched that video, I think a little bit of it. It's a video you see, and the government and the facilities have to prevent and follow certain protocols to make sure nobody gets SA'd in prison or in jails. So who are the people located involved in this? Well, Bryan Kohberger is, and then all the staff here. And these guys are staff who may have heard it. Now, it's not just actual acts, but it's the threats of acts. And he stated his form stating he has been subject to threats or harassment, recently escalating to overt sexually violent threats and statements. Like, you should have thought about a long time ago, brother. And it says Lieutenant Mallant received the form and conducted an interview with Kohberger. And Kohberger stated a resident that goes by Peru told him, I something you. And it says Kohberger also stated an unknown resident from Tier 1 of J Block said the only ass we'll be eating is Kohberger's. And they're saying that Kohberger stated that Officer Signora was present for that comment made by Peru. And it says, due to the officer being on B nights, the interview cannot be conducted to attempt to corroborate the allegation. I mean, if he's on, like, I think it's a little ridiculous when they go like, well, he switched shifts. We can't ever talk to him again. Oh, well, no, you could bring him in and say, no, bro, don't hop on the sailboats. Talk to me here for a minute. So it's a little nonsense. So anyways, they submitted an information report outlining their involvement, and they recall vulgar language being used against Kohberger, but, could not identify who said it. And, he says, like, I don't know who's saying what. And they say it's unsubstantiated, but due to no aggressor being able to be identified, no further actions were taken. And Bryan Kohberger is saying, well, he does feel safe there. It's like, what does he mean? Like, make up your mind, dude. Holy shit. I don't know how you get your mind here, but yeah. So he's kind of having what, it's just very interesting how this breaks down. It's just very interesting how this breaks down.